Hello, I am Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be reviewing the version 11.2 that has gone live to North America and Europe, as well as discussing the new Ragnarok Dragon evolution and whether or not it is viable to run Arena 2 now that it has been revamped. So, version 11.2 is now live, like I mentioned, and to a certain extent we were maybe expecting a little bit more notably more evolutions, because there is a bit of false advertising. In Gung Ho's picture they say new Ultimate Evolutions, plural, but unfortunately only Ragnarok Dragon was released, so technically there is some false advertising. There are upgrades, but not the upgrades we were hoping for. But regardless of all that, my Norn evolution write-up of Verdandi, Skald, and Erd will have to wait because it didn't come out, but it's in the process at least. So, 11.2 does relieve some quality of life improvements, the introduction of new latent awakening Tamadras, 2 new awoken skills, the Ragnarok Dragon evolution, and this article / video will be discussing all the noteworthy changes, to say the least. So, please let me scroll. Alright, so first things first, we now have what are latent awakenings, I should say. So, latent awakenings are basically another way to add additional customization to an existing monster. Essentially, every monster comes with default 5 latent awakening slots, and you are able to fuse various latent awakening Tamadras to them to occupy those spots to grant either like 1% damage reduction, minor stat upgrades. However, presently speaking right now, specific killer awakenings and skill delay resist tend to be the strongest and most powerful ones. So unless the new latents that come out are more powerful than these two, it's going to be a little hard to actually justify their usage when these others are just so much stronger. With that being said, skill delay resists only occupy 1 slot, but all killer latents occupy 2 slots in total. So, the new latent awakenings that have been released. So, geez, what is wrong with my scrolling? With version 11.2, we basically have now improved HP, improved attack, improved recovery, and improved time extend latents that all occupy 2 slots. So each of these improved latents are stronger than the older latents that occupied 1 slot multiplied by 2. So basically 2 improved health is stronger than 2 regular health latents. However, these stat improvements are not going to provide you that much value unless you are putting on a monster with an exorbitant amount of health or recovery, because attack latents are not necessary, because with killers available that add 50% damage bonus each, there is no real point in sticking on minor amounts of attack damage bonus. So you're really looking at trying to stick on these improved health and recovery latents on cards that have very high base stats for those. And in all honesty, it's only going to help you survive a little bit easier, which is obviously the goal of the latent. However, skill delay resist and appropriate killers tend to be more efficient for the longest time. So that is something to keep in mind, but they're just okay to say the least. They would most likely be just placeholders while you wait to acquire basically skill delays or the more desirable killer latents. So they're new, you are able to acquire them, but again, they're not going to necessarily be their best in slot latent awakening. So, with that being said, the time extend one only adds 0.12 seconds. Not really enough to justify its usage, perhaps. Again, it's really just going to be a placeholder latent awakening. Now, in regards to the new killer latents that were released, they cover Evo, Awaken, Enhance, and Redeemable monsters, in which all these will deal 1.5 times damage, while also occupying 2 latent slots. So of these 4, the Enhanced Material Killer can be used to efficiently kill off King Tans in Arena 2. Nothing else really applies too much for that, whereas Redeemable Material Killer actually has merits against the 10 million defense pre-draws. So, 10 million defense pre-draws are a relatively common spawn across Arena 3, Arena 2, and all Rogue Descends. Now, while there are plenty of different and exciting or sexy ways to deal with killing pre-draws such as defense voids, poisons, true damage, it sometimes can be beneficial to have organic ways to actually punch through. So let's say you had one card who couldn't feasibly equip more ideal killers or SDRs, they can simply have 2 or maybe 3 of these redeemable killer latents, and you can punch very hard. Obviously, it's very niche, but it's something to at least keep in the back of your mind. Maybe it may have applications for certain teams that are able to achieve very large amounts of damage. So it's interesting to think about, but not necessarily mandatory for success, because again, we have so many different ways to deal with pre-draws at this point in time. With all that being said, there will be future events that will eventually come to North America that will feature extra latent to moderate invades. So basically these invades have 5 million defense and 88 HP along with 33,000 damage, as well as 3 turn skill delay. Now, unlike 10 million defense, 5 million is a lot more feasible to actually break and overcome. So by stacking these, what's it called? Which one is it? Why is it escaping my head? By stacking the appropriate killer latent onto a card again that doesn't able to equip the more desirable ones can be beneficial when farming for these latent invades, because 5 million defense is definitely achievable to overcome, especially when you're stacking 2 or 3 of these killer latents. So it's going to have value in keeping the killer latent that has basically the awakened killer latent to bypass these Tamadras. So again, I feel like that would be the most valuable new killer latent to acquire for those niche situations on cards that cannot equip the more desirable ones. So with all that being said, is Arena 2 worthwhile to play? The long and short answer, well, the short answer of it is no. The longer answer is it's still not useful, but the reason being is because these new 8 latents will obviously be available in Arena 2. However, they're not exclusive to Arena 2 like how Dragon Killers are exclusive to Arena 3. These new latents can be found in pre-draw infestation, as well as even 3-player co-op. 3-player co-op arena. So there's no true need to play Arena 2. So Arena 2 is just going to remain a stepping stone or a practice playing grounds for Arena 3. There's no real merit to playing it. You can definitely just acquire these through pre-draw infestation. In terms of new awoken skills that are being released, awoken skills are different because they're tied directly to a monster. You can't put these awoken skills on different monsters and customize them. It's just going to come with the monster or it doesn't. So it's not as flexible in terms of what you can do with it. And essentially these new awoken skills will be adding bonus health or bonus recovery across the entire team. So these actually can add very large and very meaningful amounts of stats to your team. However, we have to obviously have the appropriate monster. For the enhanced team HP, it's plus 5%, and for enhanced team recovery, it's plus 10%. So this is actually quite a very large, meaningful boost to stats. It's almost on par with a lot of the solo mode badges, so this can help your teams achieve certain health thresholds, but again, we don't have easy access to them. Like any other new awakening that is released in the game, like such as follow-up attack, guard break, and 7 combo awakening, more and more cards will begin to acquire them as new evolutions are released and they trickle into North America and Europe. So again, it's something to keep keep an eye out for, but you can't necessarily pursue them as easily as latent awakenings. And now we come to Ragnarok Dragon. And Ragnarok Dragon's new evolution is live, and it's the only evolution that came with the patch that occurred overnight. And not only does it have a very complex and very somewhat tedious evolution tree to acquire, because you require, I believe, about 44 Keepers of Gold, plus a lot of interesting Descend boss drops to evolve. But in theory, you want to have duplicates of Ragnarok Dragon to truly take advantage of his maximum potential. So, ignoring the fact that he has a complex and tedious evolution tree, he does have the potential to form a powerful team because he has offensive capabilities, he has defensive multipliers, as well as a very meaningful and powerful base active skill. However, the main problem that North America and Europe has, presently speaking, is a lack of ideal machine cards to fulfill his color requirements. In an ideal world, you want to run usually 2 Ragnarok Dragons as subs in order to capitalize on his Dragon and God Killer. But in order to do that, you need to find red, blue, and yellow across 3 subs. And that can be challenging if you don't want to break all machine typing. So, presently speaking, in North America, we do have options such as, say, Machine Zeus, we have Kuvia for red-blue, we do have Baldin, we have Balboa, so we do have options, but it may be challenging to actually use the multiple Ragnarok Dragons. But when team building Ragnarok Dragon, one thing you have to keep in mind is that his killer awakenings throw out any potential for damage control. We're just going to accept the fact that you don't have damage control. So with that thought in mind, you want to stack cards with Killer Awakenings to basically optimize your damage output. And while this is a liability in Arena 3, which has lots of absorption bosses, in Cosmic Trinity, this is actually quite powerful because while Raw Dragon does not have natural killers on himself, it may be a little challenging to deal out damage. Ragnarok Dragon can actually punch very hard because for the most part, most of the earlier spawns are God or Dragon, and the final bosses are all Dragons, so stacking those Ragnarok Dragons is going to be an effective way to clear Cosmic Trinity, if you can manage to build a desirable team. But the main reason why you may see Ragnarok Dragon very high up on various Japan tier lists is because they have access to a special JP exclusive card, Bull Metius, who is red-blue and very desirable for the most part. So we don't have access to that, so it's a little harder to build as efficient of a team for Ragnarok Dragon. However, that being said, in theory you could stick on a Kuvia, a Machine Zeus, and double Ragnarok Dragons and still punch very hard. So Ragnarok Dragon does have the potential to play 3-player co-op quite efficiently, especially when it comes to Cosmic Trinity. Outside of that, it's a little challenging by comparison because, again, machine cards are not as desirable or maybe not necessarily as readily available for the average player because, again, you want to stack multiple Ragnarok Dragons. And last but not least, the starter dragons did gain buffs. Okay, so in conclusion, version 11.2 does come with some new features, but there was very little content released for a 10-hour maintenance. So my thought is that with the official Gung-Ho stream coming on Friday, they're going to release and announce and hopefully make things exciting with new evolutions that should be coming out in the very near future. So let me know what you think is the most exciting aspect of the version 11.2 to come out in the comments below. Hopefully you all have a fantastic day and happy puzzling. Bye.